and this is where beer people would understand too.
Okay.
That am I starting?
Yeah. Here, let's back it up.
Yeah, I know, because I'm explaining something like, wait, this is kind of pertinent stuff to have on camera.
What's going on, everybody? Chop and Brew, Chip Walton. I'm here with
Fitty,
Lil Fitty. If you remember our first episode,
yeah.
Lil Fitty. Don't go by the glass. I am not Fitty, but Fitty allowed me to drink from the Fitty chalice.
You're worthy. Yeah.
So we're here at Thomas Liquors. They actually let us upstairs in the tasting bar. Last week when we were doing fresh hops, we're like, let's do something for Thanksgiving. Let's do 3 beers for Thanksgiving. And you kind of made a good point that Thanksgiving, even for beer lovers, kind of turns into a wine holiday. So we thought we would do a real quick Fitty flight of wines,
I like that. Yep.
of wines that you would take to Thanksgiving, and tell us a little bit about why, maybe how they connect to the beer lover's palate.
And Chip, we have 3 specific wines here, of course. But the whole point of this production here, I just want to illustrate a generalization, but kind of broad whites and reds and why they work. And we just have to have the specific examples here.
Yeah.
And we'll branch out with the explanations of why I picked these. And I like your enthusiasm. It's a beer guy right on the wine right away.
I am. Was I? Should I have waited?
No, absolutely
I took
not.
it in. I got apricot, peach.
Absolutely not.
A little kind of like low pineapple, not the bright acidic pineapple, but almost like that meat right on the rind.
Yeah.
So
So this is a cool one. If you notice, I have a little bit of red in my glass. This is one of my favorite reds in the shop right now. It happens to be from Chateauneuf du Pape, the south of France. My favorite reds, very versatile. I think they're great for Thanksgiving, among other things. So I got started early, even before Chip took his first sip there. And Chip said, well, should we both start with white? What I wanted to illustrate was that you can go back and forth, usually for tasting. You start with whites, go to reds, and then we have a dessert wine to finish with. And that's kind of the natural progression. In beer terms, you would start with a lighter style, Pilsner IPA, whatever. You move to brown ale, stouts, and imperial stouts. And as the intensity goes, so does the flow of your tasting.
And your palate.
Your palate
goes.
Yes, exactly. Yep. But at Thanksgiving, you got a lot of things going on. Whether it is the traditional meal or not, there's always a lot of things going on. So you need a lot of versatile wines. And a lot of times you're going to go back and forth between reds and whites. And so I'm going to finish up this lovely red.
Fitty.
And if your Thanksgiving meal comes to that, you're having a good time. But I want to illustrate here. So I do have a little bit of red residue in there. Not that big of a deal. Just a little rinsing. I would suggest rinsing with the next wine you're going to drink and not with water, Chip.
Because there's science, you were telling me.
And as a home brewer, it's so much about pH and so much about water and things like that. Rather than having water residue on the bottom of your glass, it's better to have maybe a little bit of residue from another wine, whether it be red or white. You're better off with that difference between those 2 wines rather than the difference between water and wine.
Wow. As far as affecting the wine that you're about to taste.
Correct.
Diluting it, maybe diluting is the wrong word, but somehow adjusting the reality.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. Exactly.
So tell me about this one as you pour your own.
This is a Chenin Blanc Viognier from South Africa. Great price point. I picked it because, once again, it's a very versatile food white, and it's primarily Chenin Blanc. This one here is 79%, in fact. Chenin Blanc is the grape of Vouvray, France. Vouvray is a district in Loire in France, and if it says Vouvray, it's 100% Chenin Blanc. Vouvray is kind of a catchword of sorts in the Thanksgiving season. You'll see a lot of Chenin Blanc in Thanksgiving. And Vouvrays can be low teens. They can go on to up to mid-20s on up for sure, and very high-end stuff in the 50s. And you definitely have a continuum of sweetness within Vouvray and within the Chenin Blanc grape in particular. Vouvray tends to be Chenin Blanc grape in its drier expression, but not necessarily. And the little sweetness with a white for Thanksgiving is a good thing.
It's got a nice acidic finish, but definitely a residual body. It doesn't dry out it kind of helps. It just helps it not feel so, I don't know, Chardonnay.
Right.
One of my only
Right.
reference points, because I'm not a huge wine guy, but I like how this sits more. It sits almost kind of like a cider.
Okay, sure. Yep.
I would say a
Yep.
not dry, a sweeter
Mm-hmm.
hard cider.
It's got nice fruit, but it's a mostly dry white.
For sure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And Chip, you were drinking it pretty much just out of the refrigerator.
Okay.
This is cold white wine. Now, a lot of people think that white should be cold out of the fridge and stuff. Yeah, that's how they start out. But if this, to me, is too cold for what this wine should be. And to put it back into kind of beer things, and I've always noticed this with especially hoppier beers that have a good malt backbone, the colder a beer is. And, you can chill out the flavor of beer.
For sure.
And even lagers and stuff, it's like, God, well, I can't taste anything. Same deal for wines, especially whites. You can chill out the flavor. And as that warms up, and we'll revisit this
For sure.
later on, and of course you can always do the
Right, that's what
the heat transfer.
Because if you're at a meal, you're going to be talking, you're going to be coming back to it, it's going to be opening up, it's going to be blooming a little
Yep.
bit.
Yep. And as this warms up, that acidity character and that crispness dissipates into what they call the wine fleshes out a little bit. And Chenin Blanc and fuller bodied whites, like you get in the Southern Rhone and Grenache Blanc, maybe in some Chardonnay too, they call flesh out. Kind of like when you have a beer, the crispness lends to more of a malt richness as a beer warms up, and that's just always kind of my anecdotal observation for beer.
Yeah. Cold beer always seems to present hops more amplified than as it warms up. Things kind of all show themselves a little bit.
Exactly.
Malt
exactly.
especially.
Yeah. So white wine, I would suggest don't chill out the flavor. And if it is too cold, you can always wait. You can always do the heat transfer like that. It's easier to warm a white wine up than get a white wine cold while you're drinking it.
For sure.
I don't know.
Unless
if
you're out
gonna
ice
be-
fishing.
Right,
Right?
exactly.
I'm going to
Then
do
just wait a little while.
support right on top of the white.
Mm-hmm. And then just that little bit of residue. Like, you don't want to, half an ounce still.
Right.
But just a little bit of residue won't make much of a difference, in my opinion.
So, just super quick before we leave the white wine,
Yep.
they even call out notes of green apple, honeysuckle, tropical passion fruit, and then suggest it for grilled chicken, turkey, fish, or just great on its own, as we all know a wine can be. So,
Right.
almost regardless of what's being served, nice crowd pleaser, I'd assume.
Very much. Yep. And actually, I never read the back of the label. It's just,
Oh, yeah?
I just talk about it on my own.
Beer nerd.
But,
No, I got a lot of those like kind of stone fruits.
yeah,
Very,
yeah.
That, like low tropical, like I had said, which is cool to see. It's cool when you come up with something on your own and then you get it.
Oh, you're right. You got this validation.
Half validation from
exactly.
the marketing
Exactly.
copy.
Yeah, right. That's
So-
exactly what it is.
So reds, and we talked about we wouldn't match this to turkey and this to ham.
Mm-hmm.
So more talk about the reds role at a table in a situation like Thanksgiving.
With so much going on, I'm going to come back. The theme of this is going to be versatility. You want wines that are versatile, whether reds or whites or rosés can all be great Thanksgiving wines because there's so much going on. And Pinot Noir, Southern French, Grenache is what this one happens to be 100%. There are a handful in Beaujolais. You'll see some Beaujolais, some Gamay out there. Versatile reds on that side. For whites, two of them I'd say wouldn't work very well. A light, dry, crisp, say New Zealand Sauvignon Blanc, very acidic. Those go only with a very few things. The opposite of versatile, in my opinion.
Okay.
They can be decent wines, not for Thanksgiving. A lot of oak, a heavily oaked Chardonnay, not my thing. Not what I would suggest because oak goes with hardly anything. Maybe smoked meats, but that's not going to be a very common thing.
It's
So
almost
like
something more to just be enjoyed on its own.
usually, yeah. If someone likes that
It
woody
is
style,
the spotlight of whatever moment you're having, or a cigar maybe,
right?
movie,
There you go. Here's smoky cigar.
conversation.
Yep.
So this
So
is not oak.
It has its place. This is going to have some oak treatment. I don't know how much, but it certainly really doesn't come through in the flavor character. So moving on to the red.
Yeah.
So this happens to be 100% Grenache from the south of France. Grenache is the primary grape down there. But in Châteauneuf-du-Pape, they can use up to 13 different grape varietals. So often you'll see a lot of Syrah, Mourvèdre, Cinsault, and then a myriad of other red grapes. But the king in the south of France is Grenache. And Grenache is my favorite grape in all its expressions, red, white, and rosé.
Temperature-wise, a red room temp, or is there?
Typically, that's the word. That's the common knowledge or common perception.
Yeah.
A little chill on a red is very much an okay thing.
Okay.
You don't want to serve a red too warm because sometimes you get together at holidays. There's a lot of people in the room. The heat's up, and actually the room can be pretty warm. And if it came from like the top shelf, a red wine that's too warm is unenjoyable. So even with a touch of a chill on it, that is not a taboo. It used to be, you can't chill a red wine. A little bit of a chill, not cold, but a little bit of chill is a good thing, in my opinion.
Give me real quick your kind of like three descriptors for that wine specific flavor.
Balanced, black fruit, acidity, and tannic character that are in harmony. That make for a great food wine. A lot of dark berry, dark currant in there to me. Maybe a little oak. So because we're running out of battery and Thanksgiving's coming quick, we're going to hop quickly to dessert wine. What did I just pour you up? You just
man, I just went
hit it up big. So here, okay, this is such a perfect. I'm so glad you did that.
I'm still going to drink
because
that later.
here's kind of a, if somebody doesn't used to pouring wine all the time, when dessert comes, dessert wines you pour like dessert beers. You're not going to pull a full glass. You're just going to enjoy, and this is the barrel-aged imperial stouts and the barley wines and stuff like that, and the dessert beers. And I always explain that to people. And for years I've been making the parallels between dessert wines and dessert beers, and desserts themselves, because you're going to want this much of the pecan pie, which is delicious, but it's very quickly for desserts. It's too much of a good thing, and that applies to both dessert wines and dessert beers for sure. That's why small sips.
In this case, we have a port. What are other dessert wine categories or styles that people might be interested in?
Yeah, so it's just in the port category, you have essentially ruby port and tawny port. I characterize the difference of the sweetness coming from tawny port, more of a mapley brown sugar. Think of like your barrel-aged stouts and porters and things like that. Whereas ruby ports tend to be that stewed fruit, like you're making strawberry jam, you're concentrating fruit, you're boiling it, you're adding the sugar, and then you've got really sweet, concentrated strawberries in that, and what's going on there. Both sweet, but two different versions of sweet.
It makes me think of sherry, but it also makes me think of the big fruited meads that people here in Minnesota make on a home brewer level. Like those big, unctuous, boozy, delicious, sweet fruit meads.
Yeah, and you enjoy it an ounce or two at a time. And that's what dessert's supposed to be.
Sorry I poured such a big glass.
That's okay.
We'll split that after the battery dies. And
drink it until you don't like it anymore.
Oh, man. This is absolutely decadent. Luscious.
Happens to be the Otima, but I want to illustrate, and we talked about this before, we're not promoting any one thing. It's just general styles and of reds, whites, dessert wines that will go well for Thanksgiving. I don't expect anyone to remember that.
We'll put some suggestions. We'll put some specific suggestions in the video description just to help out. So. Well, we could sit here and talk all night, and we might, but this camera is about to lose the last battery it has. So any summation points for wines at Thanksgiving?
The camera's giving us a hint.
It is.
Versatility. There are some grape varietals that are better than others. In fact, most reds and most whites. You don't want a very light red or a very heavy red, but something in the middle, and you're fine, because you got so much stuff going on with the typical Thanksgiving meal. And if it's not, there's still going to be a ton of stuff going on, whatever you got anyways. And then same applies to whites. don't over chill. Don't serve it cold. You'll chill out the flavor. And reds, don't be afraid to actually chill it. That's just okay. Dessert wines, in moderation.
All right, happy Thanksgiving, everybody, from Chop and Brew, Thomas Liquors, Chip and Fitty. Tell us your favorite wine suggestions, wine pairings with food. Tell us what's going on for your holiday in the comments below, and have a great holiday. Be safe.
Happy Thanksgiving, everyone.
Have fun. Did we get it in? Hurry, press
Yeah,
stop.
it's still beeping.
I know. I'm scared.